at us.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Okay, there it is. Yeah.
Mm,
I
Pretty.
wanted to get in. I'm not watching the stream because we're playing games on stream, but I wanted to make sure that I'm at least sending a like, and a watcher on YouTube there. But okay, we're in. I
Yep.
didn't see it initially.
Yep. We'll jump
Um,
in the match in a minute. Just want to give some
yeah.
time for people to start joining in. We got a
Oh yeah.
fun topic
Because they won't want
today.
to miss
Oh no,
some of this one.
they might even
Uh,
be watching the VOD.
yeah.
Yeah, but should be fun. I think. Let's
Oh yeah,
see.
I think so. Uh,
Okay, I
we
am
have
officially hosting the duel.
yep, and I'm jumping in. Uh, Jumping in with an interesting deck to say the least.
Okay, I'm gonna swap over to our duel thing. I just promise to
Oh yeah,
switch this text layer here because we are playing critter format this evening.
oh yeah, a classic. And also, remember, this is like a new thing we're testing out, so we may or may not continue it in the future. Depends on if you guys like it and what you think of it. So if you have thoughts on this sort of format, let us know in the comments, and we will take that feedback into consideration.
Exactly. It's always worth just giving it a try, I'd
Yeah.
say. Just fixing
And
the
I
screen
think
real
that
quick.
that is honestly one of the good tips for today's topic, actually.
Yeah, always give something worth a try. I mean, like me personally, I started. I made my account in 2007. You know, like I was making random content for God, who knows how long. Probably till about 2014 or so, just uploading basically whatever I felt like once in a while. Very random things, top tens, commercials, music, like just very old school Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Um, or not Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. I mean, just like random stuff. And then I ended up doing video gaming content for a while, like reviews and oddities of the like. And like that was like my like main thing. I was doing that for like quite a long time to like 2020, and honestly, it was so stagnant like most of the time that when I started doing like Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, because I was like, yeah, let me like I did a Yu-Gi-Oh stream when the what was it, Legacy of the Duelist came out.
Oh yeah, I love that game.
Yeah, so I streamed that, and people were like really liking it. So I'm like, I asked my audience, hey, do y'all kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh stuff? Might want to do more, and they're like, yeah, they could do more. So I started doing that stuff, and then it my channel slowly turned for the gaming side of things. It kind of started to turn into a Sonic the Hedgehog channel.
Oh,
'Cause that's what people were like really liking, and I'm like, I don't want to do this all my life.
hmm.
And then so I was like doing like half Yu-Gi-Oh, half Sonic stuff, and eventually I was like, yeah, this is just like I should just pick a lane, make it easier for YouTube.
Yeah, and that I think that's a big thing on YouTube. If you want to have quicker growth and stuff like that. Oh, I see what deck this is. I gotta unfortunately stop to that. But if you want to have quicker growth, it generally is good to specialize in a certain thing. Unfortunately, you have to have ultimate offering up
Yeah,
before you do it.
I know. I'm
Um,
gonna use to summon something else.
yeah, no worries. Um, but yeah, so it helps to have a specific thing that you want to do because if you have a bunch of different things catering to a bunch of different people, then YouTube sees that some members of your audience like some of your stuff and some members of your audience do not.
Hmm.
And so it does make it a little bit awkward for them because they're like, okay, who do we recommend this to? And do we recommend it to people like this one thing or this other thing because they clearly don't like the same stuff, and so it sort of can hurt your videos in the algorithm. And I'm not trying to say that like your YouTube channel has to be successful or have a ton of growth because I think that's actually one of the tips that I want to say where you should not focus on those metrics really as much. Like you shouldn't go into YouTubing if you want to do that as something like a career where you're like, I'm gonna quit my day job to become a Yugituber, and this I'm gonna make a ton of money and stuff like that. Um, Frankly, for most channels, there aren't like too much, monetary
Hmm.
options involved. Like a lucky few do become, very successful with that sort of thing. But most of the time, it's not like that, right? And you have to sort of have that in mind, and you got to be in it for the love of the content that you're making and the community that you're making it for, as opposed to just, oh, I'm going to do this to get rich quick, right?
Yeah,
Um,
if you don't want to be doing it, like you probably shouldn't be doing it.
yeah.
Like there's
It,
definitely an argument for like acknowledging when there's a gap in a certain market to kind of jump on that. But ultimately, it's also depend. If you want to be doing that, because otherwise, like not only people are gonna realize it, but like you're gonna realize it too. What's up, Roy? You have a crippling addiction to Pokemon. Do you guys have any tips for you?
uh, Tips as in like getting into Pokemon YouTubing, or tips as in like stopping your addiction and getting help or something?
I mean, I recently made a Pokemon YouTube channel, uh,
Yeah.
just a
So
small little side thing.
I feel like there's some crossover between successful, Pokemon YouTubing tricks and successful Yu-Gi-Oh YouTubing tricks.
Hmm.
Because like, they're both niche card games that have popular animes as well. Um, so I think it's oh yeah, second counter. Um, Sometimes DB is weird with counters, where you like drag it on, doesn't really do stuff. But I think like they're largely the same. The one thing that I think is especially good for Yu-Gi-Oh is that I feel like DB is like very good for um like just making content, right? Like we're playing
Hmm.
on DB right now. It's very simple to do. We can play. We have a lot of flexibility in how we play this. And I'm not sure Pokemon has a sort of comparable simulator. Um, but it's there's a lot of different things that you can do. You can just do live gameplay if you have the actual physical cards with you. I know that there is a Pokemon sort of online thing, so you could potentially stream that a bit as well. There's a couple different things that you could do
Yeah, I think
there.
there is a like a Pokemon simulator. Like I know there's like the online Pokemon game. Um, that's a possibility. But also just it also depends like what kind of Pokemon are you talking about. Like you talking about the TCG, the anime, the video games, a little bit of everything. Like what do you want to focus on, right? Like my the Janjo region that's based off of like my whole concept for is like, hey, this is me going back in time and being like, all right, what did I miss out on? And let's look at some of the older stuff. It's essentially just like a mirror to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel, but a little less history stuff because use more of the edge of, hey, this is what I'm uh, learning instead of the hey, this is what me I'm telling you all this stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. So you want to look at it more of an educational aspect, a more comedic aspect, and entertainment, news. Like these things that you have to kind of consider. I mean, honestly, really, the most important thing is just get started to some capacity because that's really the hardest part. I would argue.
Yeah, and I feel like oftentimes the advice for you is going to be very personal to you. Like you can watch a general advice thing and get a lot out of it. And I hope that you do watch this whole. Don't just click off the stream because I said that, and you're like, oh well, it's personal to me, so there's nothing here for me. Uh, but I do think that in general, it's just like your own personal journey, right? And I think that like the best way to discover what sort of things you want to make and the content that works best for you is to just make content, see what you like about what you make, see what you don't like about what you make, see what people say about it. Like maybe they'll have good tips in the comments saying like, "Hey, I really like this video or the idea of it, but I think it would be better with like this, and this." And you don't have to listen to all of that. Like commenters can definitely have some great advice, but also it could just be advice that it is catered to their own tastes and not really what you want to be doing. So definitely learn like what sort of advice to listen to and what advice not to listen to. Um, but I do think in general, it's good to sort of just get doing it, and you don't like spend too much time in your head before you go into it thinking like, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? Like, I got to plan out my whole YouTube journey like beforehand to make sure I'm as professional as possible when I first debut. Because whenever you first make your first video, it's not going to be very professional, no matter how good you are, most of the time. Um,
Yeah, like
and
I look
so
back at my early stuff. I'm like, oh, this is like even like when I started doing Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. This is after doing years of video gaming. I'm like, this is garbage, just because it's you're trying like a whole new thing. Also, my living situation was kind of different at that time. I'm pretty sure I edited the first history video on like a kitchen table where I had my
yeah,
entire setup set up on. Like when I first started, yeah, it was it was pumpkin.
oh yeah, the
Um,
king has arrived.
um,
Um,
trap all that. Like when I first started, it
no,
was like history stuff, but also like I did like news videos. I just did like random top tens and discussion. Like it was just kind of just throwing stuff at the wall until I eventually settled down to what I was like digging, which was retro Yu-Gi-Oh.
yeah,
I'll use
and
Sangan.
I will say as well, like in talking about like the setup that you use, it can be nice to get like good materials if you can get it. Like for instance, when I started out, I looked up, okay, what mic should I get? What webcam should I get? Things like that. And there generally are a lot of resources out there for that sort of stuff. Like for me, I use a Blue Yeti microphone. I think a lot of people doing YouTube, or at least when you're starting out, you use a Yeti because it's a very very good microphone. I also use a Logitech webcam as well, and I made sure to get these like during holiday season, so they were a lot cheaper than they would be otherwise. But I think they're relatively affordable. Like I think my whole setup, besides my computer itself, which obviously computer is definitely going to be pretty expensive, but also I use my computer for other things. I already had it. Um, so just the YouTube setup part costs like less than $200, I think. So, it's still an investment, but it's definitely affordable. And if you're doing this as something that you want to do, like a hobby or something, I think it's very reasonable to spend that on it.
Yeah, I would argue the one of the most important things is the audio. Because if you notice on YouTube, right, like if a video quality starts to dip down, uh, the last thing to go is the audio, and you can there's because even though like there is a video component, if you're talking in it, like that's gonna be the most important component of that is like your personality or the information that you're trying to provide. For the longest time, I had a blue uh was a blue snowball, I think it was called, or a
Oh, I forget
or what was it?
what version this.
Um,
I think this is just Yeti. But yeah, I think the Snowball I've heard is good too.
yeah, I had that for a
Um,
long time for upgrading to this RE20, which is absolutely like phenomenal. I mean, it's definitely worth the however much it was, 300-400. Um,
yeah, and it looks good too. Like on the mic arm and stuff.
oh yeah,
Um,
it's very finicky though. A lot of times I'll do voiceovers. If I need to do a pickup a few days later, it's gonna sound different because like every like minor thing changes. Like,
yeah,
unfortunately, I don't have like a recording booth to do stuff in. But that's just, I
yeah,
mean, like,
and I will
don't.
say like yeah, most people when you start out, you don't have that sort of thing. It is good to be in a have a spot where it's like relatively quiet. So like for instance, like if you live next to a busy street or something, maybe don't go like right to the window facing the street. It's so that way it's picking up like car noises and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, but like, yep, second counter. Uh, but I think in general, most people have at least one spot where it's like relatively quiet and things like that, and that would be a great place to record.
What's up, G Lam? Good evening, gentlemen. Any content creation tips for someone who does have a computer or doesn't have a computer and only has their phone?
Mm.
It's my witch.
I I I know people do make content on their phone as well. Like YouTube Shorts are a big thing, so you can make those.
I know Adobe
But I
has like Adobe Express. Like, there's editing software on your phone. You just have to be a little more, creative on how you get there. I mean, and it's very much possible. If you have all the tools to do that, you can plug in microphones like a lot of lavalier mics or Rode mics, to your phone, record off of there, do some editing. It's not gonna be like fancy editing, but I mean, there's software specifically made for phone. And yeah, Shorts is a great way to go about that. So you have a few options.
Yeah. Also, it does depend on like the content you want to make too. Like if you want to make like long form content, I think the phone might be a little bit difficult depending on what that content is. Just because I think it's a lot easier to edit a long form thing like on a computer with you know more heavy duty software. But I've never edited a video on my phone, so I can't really say too much about it. Um, that's just sort of the impression that I've gotten.
Yeah, you can also like potentially, buy like cheap laptops if you really needed some sort of, you know, desktopy kind of thing, or even like a tablet. You can get those like clip-on uh, keyboards as potentially as a way to go about it as well.
Yeah, and there are plenty of great lists talking about different both recording software and editing software and things like that. And they generally do have sections on like, okay, here's what you do if you're working on a interesting heavy. Sure. Here's what you do if you're working on a complete budget. You've got like let's say a Chromebook for like $100 or something, and it doesn't have the most processing power. These are the softwares that you want to be using. And I assume that also has sections for phones and things like that. Um, but I know that. Oh, okay, sure. Uh, but I know that like there's an option out there for everyone, no matter what sort of position you're in. So I just encourage you to explore and look up the online resources for that. But also, think about like what you want your content to be. So have an idea of that just in your head, like to start with, and then like just go from there. Like you could also the content could also be like sort of based on your limitations. People say that limitations are often what make great art, and I'm not saying that you'll be making great art in your content,
Hmm.
but what I am saying is that like you might potentially be able to come up with something that you're passionate about making that fits your software constraints. um, and if you can do that, then I think that that is, the perfect path forward, right? So don't have to like don't go into it presupposing like I'm gonna make epic like uh, incredibly detailed edited you know sort of long form guides to these sorts of
Hmm.
things. Um, like in grand sweeping scale, it's gonna be 6 hours long and all that stuff, and gonna have effect after effect after effect in it. Um, if it doesn't really match your capabilities, but
Calling
also know that there's nothing bad in not making that sort of thing.
calling heads.
Yep. Okay, come on, miss. No.
Hey,
Oh damn.
this is how I
Unfortunate.
win. Oh, what's up, Princia Inc. Princia Inc. 3 month the YouTube algo loves me, now it hates me. Yeah, you can't really be chasing like the YouTube algo. Like it's honestly, it does what it does. You can follow trends, you can do stuff like that, which it certainly does helps, and YouTube does give you tools to help offset that. But like there's just some things that are just out of your control. Like the best you can do is just like for me it's consistency, right? Consistency of what you're putting out, that people know it's you, not making one video months at a time. And sometimes it can work if you make like a really big video that everyone watches, but those are very rare situations. Not everyone's like an H bomber guy, sort of thing, right, Geki?
Oh
No,
yeah.
saying its effect off. Yeah, like for me it's about consistency, right? I try to have a schedule that and a way to edit that doesn't burn me out, and it definitely has gotten me on occasions, but that's just part of the game that you gotta play.
And also, like, you can have different editing styles or schedules or things like that. Like, Janjo makes some very good, you know, big edited stuff uh, that, takes a lot of time in editing and a lot of time in script writing and things like that. Whereas with me, with my content, I sort of just get some games and then just record myself talking about the games, doing the analysis on that, And basically, I go into the editing software, basically cut out just the dead space in between, like when I'm jumping in between screens, and bada bing, bada boom, it's out there into the world. Um, so, it really does depend on, what you want to do and the type of video you're making. You could spend a lot of time editing for your content, or you could potentially, be like me and be a lazy bum and just, um, shuffle content out the door really quickly.
I mean, the way you go about it, like like it's very nice because you can just kind of get videos pretty much whenever you want. Like whereas mine, it's like for me, like the editing is simple, but like it's all time consuming. Um,
Yeah.
and it all again, it just purely depends on just what kind of content that you want to make, right? Do you want to make like simple duel videos? Well, then that's a good way to batch up a bunch of content to do that. You can do just very basic discussions over light gameplay, or you can do really heavily edited videos. It kind of just depends on what your scope is. Um,
Yeah.
but just
And
130.
also, like let's say that you don't want to do much editing and stuff. Let's say that you actually don't want to make videos, you want to stream. That's also a perfectly valid way to go about this. So this is the first stamp. Well, actually, it doesn't matter since I don't have any zombies, so this won't be affecting anything. But you could just be a Yu-Gi-Oh streamer, right? Let's say you like Master Duel, or you like playing on the Goat Ladder on Dueling Book, or something like that. And or maybe you like playing in person, just bringing your camera with you in person and streaming those. Like
Hmm.
there are a lot of different paths to success in streaming. And by success, I'm not meaning like, hundreds of thousands of followers. By success, I'm meaning just like, making fulfilling content for you, making content that like you are happy with and that makes you feel good, right? And I think that's the most important thing, um, with any of this content creation. Just do things that make you feel good. Don't worry about the algorithm too much because as has been mentioned, the algorithm is very fickle, and it can also potentially wind up with like you know maybe you think that you have an idea that's good for the algorithm, and it actually turns out to not really be that good. And you don't want to just have that be like oh, that's the end of my time YouTubing. Um, because like, you never know what's gonna get picked up or not picked up in the algorithm. So
Yeah, it's. I think one thing that helps, at least like for me, because what I've noticed that there's always like an issue of someone like making a like a Yu-Gi-Oh channel, and it like what ends up happening? It just like they look at like the big channels like SEMO, Team APS, uh, and whatnot, and just copy them basically. Everyone's got a progression series kind of thing. um, like way over the top. Um, and it just comes off as a little bit disingenuous. Like, okay, just like another one. It's like, why watch that when you're watching the big ones? So one thing that I've found um, that helps me is like look at other channels like that's not in the genre that you personally like, um, and then incorporates like those kind of styles into whatever style that you want to do, so you kind of get a more of an original take off that. Plus, also you inject your own style to it, so it becomes something wholly new and original, something that people are okay. This is different. This is like this person, as opposed to hey, this is just team whatever Yugioh 3.
yeah, and it as Janjo said, like there's a lot to learn from a lot of different people, but also make sure you're not just being a clone of those people, right? Um, Very, very important stuff because if you just want to make exactly the same content as like SEMO, like let's say you just copy all the different series that SEMO does, right? Like you've got a progression series, a history series, Master Duel Masters, all that stuff, and you're like, okay, this worked for SEMO, it's going to work for me. The thing is that people might like your content and your personality and stuff, but SEMO has been doing this for like a long time, and SEMO has this very well produced system going on now, right? So they make videos that are you know going to be probably better than what you're making, right? And so you don't necessarily want to be a SEMO clone because people will watch your stuff and be like, well, that's worse than SEMO, right?
Hmm.
And like, that's never a good feeling to be known as the worst SEMO, right? Or the worst whoever. Um,
Yeah,
so I
like
think
SEMO and these other channels work not because of just the default content that they have, but it's because of how they, like them as a personality, the way they produce the content, the longevity, the right place, right time, algorithm, random luck. Like there's a lot that goes into it than just, oh, they got big just because they're making a progression series, or they're getting big just because they are putting together like, this is the first place deck of my locals. And like if you want to do
yeah,
that, like there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to set some sort of expectation going in. Like it's success to whatever degree that you take it is not going to happen overnight.
yeah. And also it may not even happen over a year, over however long, right? If you just keep doing YouTube because you're chasing after this elusive carrot that's going to be at the end of the ride, then you're going to one, not have fun, right? And I think the main goal of this sort of thing should be to have fun, right?
Mm.
In my opinion, at least. Other people can have different opinions on that, but that's how I view it. It should be something that either gives you joy or just gives you some satisfaction in some way, um, or else it's not really worth doing. But ooh,
Yeah, like you need to, you know, one like enjoy what you're doing, but but I think something it could help do is like set goals. Like
yeah,
small goals, not big goals. Like, oh, I need to hit like 1,000 subscribers. I need to monetize as quickly as possible. I need to have 5 videos a day every. Just no, just like calm down a little bit. Just have like some small goals here and there. You don't need to rush it. Like this is if you want to be a YouTuber, not even just YouTuber, just a YouTuber. Like you're gonna be in it for the long haul.
yeah. And I mean that's the important thing is that like you are doing something that you enjoy doing for a long period of time. And for the note, you don't have to go into YouTube being like, I'm going to be doing this for years. This is going to be something that I do, constantly and stuff. Good, you could just like have an idea for a video, like find it interesting and be like, I just want to make this video and put it out there. Um, I think that's also perfectly valid.
Hmm. Yeah, Princia Inc. says, yes, I got 6 years, barely any, and 6 years, barely any in 3 months, like 3,000. Uh, this is 30,000. If you got 30,000 subs in 6 years, I say that's pretty
Oh
good.
wow, yeah, no, that is very good.
But I feel like
Um,
there's some sort of mistranslation between
yeah, or
between
maybe
the
like a
two.
typo on the number of zeros or something.
Yeah,
Um,
and like, look, if you're doing your channel for like a while and it's just not working out, then you just gotta like step back and just kind of see what's going on. Because like I was like that for a while with my video game stuff. It was a think about this, like
yeah,
like
no, this is
like
definitely is.
I hit a for sure ceiling with my content, and like stepping back and switching like genres entirely. It may not work for everyone, but it certainly worked for me. But even just like the kind of content you do, or just refocus is
Yeah,
important. Like just look at what works, what doesn't work. Ask some friends, ask some people. Hey, look at my channel. Like what do you like about it? What do you think you can improve? And just get just feedback.
yeah. Um, and also like be humble too. Where like, don't be like, oh, I'm gonna listen to what they say, but I ultimately know best, right? Like I mean, to some extent that is, like do what you want to do. Don't like be like, okay, I have to cave to every single possible um sort of criticism here or something. Uh but I think at the end of the day, like acknowledge like, okay, that is an idea, that I could do, right? I could potentially uh add this thing to my content or something, or I could potentially do this or that or what have you, right? Um, so I think it is good to keep that sort of thing in mind. 35, 35, nice number.
I had to really think about that. I'm like, that seems like a weird half. I guess it,
Yeah, the have function on DB is very nice for those sorts of things.
I never
Um,
remember what it is. Just slash half.
yeah, I think slash half or slash have, but that's very nice. Um, but yeah, I will also say though, as well, we've been talking about like just doing what feels good and what you want to be making at a given time. But yeah, I figured the trap hole was coming, but I had to go
Shadow
for it.
Ghoul.
Um, I
Oh
had to I had to
no.
try. But like I think there's also something where if you have an idea for like a grand project that you want to do and like you want to build up to that sort of thing, then that is also something you could potentially do. Where, like, for me personally, like, I am currently doing uh, you know, my stated goal of the channel is to go through all these old retro formats and explore them thoroughly, and then like move on to the next one, keep going throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Uh, we are currently in a pretty bad time period for the game overall, which is 2006, where Steino Decayed X are sort of running rampant like every single format, and ooh, yeah, that's unfortunate for me. Um, and it is like playing game after game after game and running into Steino Decay a lot of the time can be kind of rough. And so like I will be honest, like um, there have been like in some of my recent coverage, I've been like, oh, I'm just not feeling this format. Like it's a bit rough for me. Um, and so like, I haven't had as much enjoyment of some of the stuff that I've been doing like recently as I have for some other formats that have been a bit better. Um, but I think because I'm working towards a bigger goal, I do I enjoy it enough to keep going and keep making the content and doing that. And so I think also having a larger goal can be somewhat useful. But also, like, you don't have to be like me. You don't have to, keep making the same sort of content over and over. You can start out with a set goal and decide, I had this set goal that I really wanted to accomplish, but I'm just not feeling it anymore. And you can like dive into a different thing. I'm still feeling my set goal, which is why I'm still going with it. Like, I still want to, see this thing through to the end and enjoy it. But YouTube's different for every person, and your own mileage may vary on whatever you're doing at a given time. So I do think it is good to acknowledge that and always sort of uh, you know just think about like how you're doing at that time. Keep a good watch on yourself and decide what you actually want to be doing at that time, whether it's still what you want to be doing.
Yeah, like, and even if you're like doing like, there's always gonna be like bumps on the road. Like, like with like my history series. Like you start to get to the point where like, oh my god, why did I do this? But
Yeah.
I'm too stubborn to quit, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean,
um,
I feel that. um,
but it's also like, like my Meadowlands history video. I spent a lot of work on that, right? One of my it's like my primary series, and that video completely sunk. I don't know what happened. It did absolutely garbage numbers,
mm.
and it's
and
like,
and that also is tough too. Like if you're doing retro Yu-Gi-Oh content too, you never know what people are going to react to. Unless it's like Edison or Goat, the retro community, or not the community as a whole, but like retro YouTube at least, is very sort of fickle on what the algorithm recommends to people and picks up and stuff like that. Um, so you can wind up in some very a video that you worked a lot of time on and you were really happy with and stuff, you can wind up with it being one of your worst performers and like getting no views.
yeah,
um
there's a lot of times I'll make something, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. It's gonna be like, people are gonna love this. They're gonna watch it, and then it just does horribly. And then that could be for a number of reasons, right? It could be just the concept of it. It could be the editing of it. It could be, um, your dialogue in it. It could be the way you upload to YouTube, right? Name, thumbnail, tags. Like, it could just be just the audience. Like, it could be YouTube's feeling. Like, it could be a number of reasons, and they never quite tell you what exactly it is, and that can be rather frustrating.
yeah, and there's a nice little analytics feature on the YouTube studio thing. Uh, it can be somewhat helpful sometimes for noticing trends in your content and seeing which content does well, which content doesn't do well. Like for instance, with me, I noticed that when I was initially publishing videos and stuff, I would always put the format that it was in, just to be like, okay, if you want a critter video, this format or this video is in critter, right? This is a critter video, and so I put critter and then title the video and stuff. And I noticed that after a period of time, that a lot of those videos were doing poorly and stuff, but the videos that I made that didn't have format names in the title actually generally did better. Um, and so I was like, okay, let's try and adjust this and actually not put format names in the videos here. And you know, like there have been some people that have said in the comments that I should go back to doing that and stuff. But I do think that it has generally worked better for my channel and like growing my audience and having better numbers and stuff to not put the format names in the title, as however counterintuitive that may be. Um, because the way that I think it works out is like if you put a format title uh, in in a video, right? And let's say someone has never heard of critter format, for instance, right? And they're like, well, you know, I don't know critter format. I don't like critter format. There's nothing like what is this critter? This video is clearly not for me. It's for people who like this critter thing, right? And so even if they're interested in retro Yu-Gi-Oh, they might not necessarily click on the video. Or
Mm.
if you put the year in the title, um, and people are like, okay, well, the maybe 2002, let's say. Well, I've got a firm idea of what 2002 Yu-Gi-Oh looks like, right? And I don't like it, so I'm not going to do it. But if you just put in a video title, let's say like you know, Pumpkin is a cool deck, let's say, right? Uh, Pumpkin is a card that a lot of people remember fondly from the anime and things like that. And even if they've never heard of critter format or if they think that 2002 Yu-Gi-Oh is going to be the most boring thing in the world, uh, they might be like, well, I like pumpkin, so I'm going to check out this video because it might be interesting, and maybe they'll find something that they actually liked or that they were expecting to hate, and it actually works out for them. So I do think that like the analytics tab can actually be helpful for sort of seeing what to potentially change outside of just you know different suggestions for like oh, okay, that's scary for me. But it can be helpful for that outside of just like just seeing numbers good, numbers bad, etc.
Yeah, you definitely want to find like your niche in it. I'm kind of I guess both of us really are in the rather unfortunate position to be in a retro Yu-Gi-Oh, like historical Yu-Gi-Oh niche, because Yu-Gi-Oh's already a niche of a card game and it's not even the most popular card game at that. So like having a niche of a niche like makes us, so when people want to seek us out, like up there for channels they want to seek out, but in terms of like the grand scale of things, right? It's hard to say like, oh, we'll be at these like top tier levels, at anytime remotely soon, which it's rather unfortunate, but that's just how the way that the game works. Like you were saying, G Lam, where you did like Yu-Gi-Oh Pokemon openings, and you did a Digimon opening and got a ton of views. Well, like maybe that's a sign, right? Maybe that's saying, hey, you got to listen to your audience at times, right? Like, hey, this is what they're clearly looking at, right? My audience capacity for more OCG stuff. So, well, that's what I end up giving them. I end up making that the Yu-Gi-Oh CG series, making OCG stuff on average, because eventually I was like I got to start doing this because people, these clearly do better than other videos, sometimes better than my other series. You look at other things like I would say something like speed duels, right? Like all the big speed duel tubers kind of left, and while that speed duels is kind of essentially it's dead. Like just a random example, like that's a thing like no one's really doing much into. Um, Similar to the Janjo region, like I see some channels that did some retro Yu-Gi-Oh or retro like Pokemon stuff, but it's not the like consistency or like the quality that like I could present into it. So I kind of see like okay, I could present something in here as well. So you have to keep a sort of a pulse on like what's going on between like not only your audience but also just what could potentially work as something to make content for that you're
Yeah.
also into.
Yeah, and I think that's the best tip for, or not the best tip, but it's one of the tips for starting out. Where if
Wait,
you,
real quick. Did I use soul
oh yeah,
change this turn or last turn?
last turn, yeah.
Okay. Go.
Um, but I think that's one of the key things because oftentimes, like, one of the best ways to go into content is because you're like, I have not seen this content around, and something that I actually am really interested in. So I would like to see this content around. And so like that's sort of what I did where, I never made videos before my Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. I was just sort of like, one day I was watching like retro Yu-Gi-Oh content and stuff. I saw, the history of Yu-Gi-Oh series that, Simo did, and I was like, I really like seeing retro Yu-Gi-Oh gameplay. But I feel like the gameplay they're doing in the series is like not in depth enough for me, right? They're just showing off one or two decks of format, and they're not really showing up a ton of different matches and stuff. And I feel like I would like to know, some of the more nitty gritty stuff of this format, or I'd like to know, with modern optimization techniques, what can people come up with in these formats and stuff. And so I was like, you know, no one out there seems to be doing this thing. People do retrospective things of these formats, like Janjo's history series where, he goes through on the overview and stuff, but that's not gameplay. And people were doing gameplay videos, but they weren't really, you know, like the SEMO stuff, they were more casual gameplay, I think. So I wanted to sort of do a competitive thing. And let's face it, like I'm not like I don't have the most competitive laurels, right? Like I don't think that I'm the like super competitive guy. I'm not like Joshua Schmidt or a Pack or something like that where I'm just making this like I've won events in this stuff and I've got a reputation for being like this person who's very very good at the game, right? I think I'm decent at the game. Like don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm terrible at the game, but I don't have that sort of pedigree behind me. But it was something that I wanted to do and I wanted to see it, and so I was like, I guess I got to do this myself. And I think that is a big thing too, where like sometimes, even if you feel like you're maybe not the most suited person for the job, or that there could be people out there who are better than you at this thing, sometimes you just got to go for it. And that's what I did myself there. Uh, I can't let that go through. I can't take that much damage.
I had a feeling you had a waboku,
Yeah.
waboku.
Um,
Yeah,
and so
like I'm never gonna be like a great duelist either. I'm not gonna be the most like, oh my god, look at this insane new hot new deck. I'm just like, oh, just do stuff at my own pace.
yeah. And I also think too, like, for me personally too, and this just comes down to your own style of YouTubing and like what you enjoy to do and what you enjoy seeing as well. Um, for me personally, I don't like these sort of like over the top like Team Samurai X1 sort of content. We're like, oh, this is the craziest new deck in Master Duel. Like this deck's gonna blow apart the meta and stuff. They're like showing off like a Red Eyes deck and stuff. Um, and I just brought up Red Eyes because like it's usually an anime archetype, and it's usually something that while it can look cool in a combo video or something, it's not necessarily going to be the most meta breaking thing in the world. Um, and I don't really like that sort of thing. I always try and tell it like as I see it, even if it's a bit less hype, right? Like in my Pumpkin
Mm.
video, I did win with it, so that was kind of hype to see that. But at the end of the day, I was like, you know, I managed to win with this, but it's not really the best deck in the world. It's got some pretty massive flaws, and so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to people. But, it's a fun sort of thing to experiment with, and so I try and sort of get across that in these videos that I make. Um, but it's definitely not like you know hype content that probably would get a ton of views, and that's also something that you got to keep in mind. Like you don't necessarily want to make content that you feel like would get a bunch of views if it's something that you would feel bad putting out, and I would feel bad putting out that sort of content. Um, so it's always good to consider that sort of thing.
Yeah, like you can always make a content and then just change it up, like the video up later, or just make a different video later. Like you're not forced to stick with one specific thing, right? You always have time to like pivot and change and stuff. So if you're doing something that you think it's working and you kind of feel like maybe it doesn't, then it's perfectly reasonable to just kind of change things around.
Yeah, and also to experiment as well. Like, we are currently experimenting with this, and that's not necessarily because we didn't like the previous format, but like, I thought it would be interesting to test out, and we're just seeing how it works. And experimentation is, I think, the best thing that you can do as a content creator, just to mix things up. Not necessarily because things are growing stale, just because you want to see what else you can do and see what else you can maybe bring to viewers that isn't out there, and or just things that might be more fun to do. And just because we're experimenting with this doesn't mean that it's something that will stick around forever, right? Like, we
Hmm.
have the option to just go back to the original format as well if it feels like it's not working out, or something like that. But the important thing is that we tried it, and now after this we'll know how we feel about it, and so we'll be able to make a better judgment about that sort of thing in the future, right? And that sort of thing is very important if you want to be making a bunch of content, in my opinion.
Yeah, like as a historical Yu-Gi-Oh channel, the important thing is knowledge and information. So if like something like this, like yeah, if we're not quite feeling it, then at least we'll know why we weren't feeling or why did it not work, as opposed to just being like, well, it's who's to say. So like it's always important to like try something out, like an editing style, a type of video content, and then just kind of work off from there. Like you got to start somewhere, basically.
Yeah,
Like if you have like a
and I
rough
know
idea, just go for it.
I know plenty of people who have been like, "Oh, I've got this idea for a great YouTube channel, but I need to really work on the script for the first video. I need to hammer this out. Like, I need to spend a year on this thing, or like, I just need to, make sure I've got all my ducks in a row before going for it and jumping into it, like, and really like, putting it out there because I want to make sure it's the best it can be right away." And I think there is some merit to, trying to, produce the best thing you possibly can. But I also think that perfection is the enemy of the good. That means is
Hmm.
just like, if you spend all your time trying to get something completely perfect, it'll never be perfect, right? It'll never meet that standard that you have in your head, the golden video that you want to put out, right? But what it will do is it will stop you from making that video, and it will stop you from trying to see what works just by putting it out there in the world, right? And it'll stop you from improving in that way, because I think a lot of the times one of the only ways we can improve is to try. And so you don't necessarily want to be in that sort of position, and that's why, like, it just you know just get going, like, just go for what you want to do, right? um, don't don't like let anything stop you. Just try and go for it and see what happens. um, I think that's the best thing that you can probably do.
Yeah. See, G Lam, you talk about the extreme like button stuff like that, and to be honest, that stuff works. So why'd you set a monster? It's my
I got
turn.
ahead of myself. I was like, it's my
Uh,
turn, right?
yeah, some of that YouTube stuff, like when you like, I mean, I do the call to action stuff. Like it works, honestly, because
Yeah,
people are stupid
it's
and you have to hurt them. Like that's just
I
like the nature of the game. Like the analytics show that it does work.
yeah, I always feel awkward doing it, but I've noticed that when I remember to do it, like at the beginning of my videos, I get like a bunch of subscribers more than I normally get per day. So it's just kind of funny. I was like, oh, it feels so awkward, but like sometimes it just, you know, um, it is what works, and you can't really change that. This is gonna be a bit scary for me. It's
Hmm.
4,100 damage. Ooh. Uh,
I wish I had a big old storm.
yeah, that would be a pretty good year, but unfortunately, I think this is all gonna go through. I just gotta pray you don't have canceled. Uh, but ah, my monster. That's a bit unfortunate. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, yeah, like I do think that, like, you can do it in your own way, right? You can do it in a way
Hmm.
that is not like, you know, is not does not feel like too bad for you, right? Like, whoa, like and subscribe, guys. Like, if you go into it with that attitude of like, that's how it's gonna be, right? Then it's obviously not going to be something pleasant for you, right? But if you
Yeah.
go into it like, where you're like, okay, guys, I know it's silly, but I gotta do the like, comment, subscribe thing, and maybe that's more comfortable for you. If you do that, then That's fine for you there. And oh, you got the combo online. Oh, that's fun.
I gotta
Uh,
do it. I'm sure there are better targets. I'm like,
no, but you
yeah,
got it. You got to go for this.
yeah, like you have to be either like sincere or very self-aware about it. Because otherwise, yeah, it sounds like you're just being a jerk.
Yeah. Um, but as Janjo said, like it does work. Like it's surprising. You wouldn't think it would work because maybe if you're watching things, you've grown cynical to that sort of thing. If you see it happen like all the time, um, but it does indeed work. Just like this mirror force will work.
I knew it. I'm like, I gotta get these guys out. I had a
Yeah.
feeling.
I've
But
been sitting
yeah.
on that mirror force for the whole game. I've had it since turn one, but I've just been like, I gotta hold it for the right moment.
At least we saw the battle guard, so I'm this deck's a success.
Yeah, I mean that's what matters. I think if you pull off the combo, yeah, that's what matters. And I think there's actually a lesson in there to apply to YouTubing as well. If you're playing a deck like Swamp Battle Guard, right? Like you're going into it with the expectation that maybe you're not going to win. Maybe you will win, and that would be great. Like that would be superb. But you're going into the expectation of like, okay, this deck is going to be silly, but what do I want out of it? What I want
Mm-hmm.
out of it is to pull off the combo. I want to get Swamp Battle Guard and Lava Battle Guard on field at the same time. And if I do that, I will be happy, right?
And that's what we were saying
Um,
earlier about setting goals and expectations.
exactly. So it applies in Yu-Gi-Oh! And applies in life as well. Um, and so I do think it's important to sort of remember that and do things related to that and keep all your expectations in check.
Yeah, because I mean, YouTube is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
That is for
If you
sure.
if you're a fan of Heart, go to Twitch. No, Twitch is also tough to break into. Um,
At least with
but
Twitch, you just gotta stream. But like even that's like, that's a whole other tool set all on its own.
oh yeah,
You
and
know.
different people will like different things, right? Like maybe you hate recording videos and editing those things out, but you do just love to um, you love to stream, right? You love to just be on camera. Oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. Um, but like lean into that. Do that instead, right? Like you don't have to potentially just focus on doing YouTube videos because that's the thing that you got to do. Um, you could potentially do other sorts of content as well. So um, there's no one right way to do something.
That's
And
right. Fear the battle guard.
I am afraid of it. I am actually legitimately terrified. Uh, yeah, we'll both do that. Figured a storm was coming at some point, but uh, I had to go for it. Yep, that's fine. Ooh, that's a pretty good draw.
Yeah, like with my channel, like I have, like I work professionally in production in both like YouTube, well, currently YouTube sense and like prior like television. So like I have background of like organizing things helps and just kind of like narrating things, like simplifying things and keeping things streamlined is very nice. Um, Holding my breath here for a second.
Uh,
Is there Roboku?
yeah, I think I gotta evoke that. I was debating like being
Okay.
cute and like taking the 1800 and then having you attack with Gumo and then flipping Woboku, but I
Okay.
think I just have to
But yeah, like
Woboku there.
for my Yu-Gi-Oh or like for my channel, right? It used to just be like I'll just kind of make general whatevers. But like now it's like I don't think anyone's noticed, but I basically have like three series, right? I have my main series, like the Yu-Gi-Oh history. I have the side deck, which is just like that's kind of like the more catch-all topics, and then I have balls, and then I and then I have the Yu-Gi-Oh CG. So I have like three things I can kind of like mess around with. Um, Occasionally, like I'll have like a surprise video if it's like a newsworthy thing, but 1300 I think. But like I
Yeah.
think simplifying things also may be a way, just like start with like one specific idea, and just really nail that down. Oh my god, this is actually scary. Top Deck
We're in a very
City,
simplified game state.
Hachi Machi. I don't like this. Oh
Yeah.
goodness. Like before, like yeah, it was just um like I had like a news series and stuff, and I had um things like names, so like it also just made everything just confusing. And that's another thing too, like the marketing of it, right? Make sure it's something that people are aware of, that they can like read and notice, like legibility, for like thumbnails and catchy titles. You know, uh, try and make a statement. Don't necessarily ask questions because the answer will always be no. Basically, don't take 2-3 minutes to get to like the topic. Just jump into it because people have I'm gonna solemn judgment,
Oh,
which is uh
solving
what's
a Castle Dark. I gotta respect it.
is it half? It is half. 85 life
Yeah.
points. I'm like I might as well. Um
Yeah. I I was debating flipping it beforehand, but I was like, Mirror Forge just like hooks me so bad.
yeah,
So
but like everyone has like ADHD, and it's
yeah.
part of the cards, and it's like you need to get their attention. You need to keep it because you're fighting against everyone else. So like, don't be like, all right, in this video we're going to talk about. In some videos can get away with depending on what it is, but generally speaking, you don't want to take too long for a step. Like someone like your channel, like you go over the deck profile and everything like that. So like that's already like like that's important for that. Um, and like I've been guilty of it too. Like I look back on some videos, and even fairly recent videos, and I'm like, oh, this could have been done way better. Like
Yeah.
it's a constant growing process, which is good.
And also,
That means you're improving. That means you're learning and you're getting better.
yeah, and also it's important to note that like I most videos I put out, I'm like, man, this video is garbage. Well, I don't think garbage, right? But like
Hmm.
I'm like, ah, man, this video is not as good as it could have been, right? Like, maybe there's a stumble here or there that I remembered, but I couldn't find in the editing process, or maybe it's a phantom stumble that's just in my mind that I'm thinking like, oh, if I'd spoken more eloquently here or done something like that, and like at a certain point you just got to put out what you put out, right? You could potentially scrap every video that doesn't meet your standards, but I think in general, you just got to accept that nothing will be perfect, right? And also the big Yugitubers think that too, right? Like to a certain extent, where I'm sure they have videos that they're like, oh, I'm not really sure how this one will do. I'm not sure if it's actually turned out well, but I've recorded it, I've done it, I just got to put it out there, and that might become some of their most popular stuff.
Yeah,
And I know
honestly,
that's become
like some of my like videos I look at, I'm like, this is gonna be like this is not a good video. Those end up getting like the most views. I'm just like, I don't know what's
yeah,
going
same with
on.
me. It's wild. It's like you never know how a video is gonna do, and also you got to remember that like the person most critical of you is probably you, right? And you will probably see flaws in your video that no one else will see because let's like you're in your own skin for 24 hours of the day, unless you're a skinwalker, in which case that you got a different thing going on. But you are going to be with yourself. You will remember the times when you spoke the best in the world and you like told the funniest joke ever at that one party that one time, and you'll remember that. Your audience will not, right? Like they just know you from your videos, and uh,
It's the spotlight effect.
exactly. Now, sorry, I've been talking a bit, but I will end this game. You saw him the first Castle of Dark Illusions, but no one ever
No,
expects the second Castle of
920
Dark
for a
Illusions.
game.
Wahahaha. Um,
Okay, do you want to do a game 3 or do you want to call a draw to do a new deck for this last hour?
I want to see. Okay, I want to see which one of these wins,
All right.
and then we could play maybe like faster decks for the game three if or for the game the next match if we do it. But um, yeah, I want to see because these have been surprisingly intense games. So I'm curious to see which one will prevail.
I don't joke around.
Oh yeah, I'm also incredibly serious with what's going on here. This is the game for the ages. This will become the what they speak about in the future. They'll think back tentatively to the Battle Guard versus Castle of Dark Illusions pumpkin game.
We told by
Um,
their fathers and their grandchildren's and their children's generations to come.
exactly.
Leave a comment.
Also,
Who do you think is going to win?
yeah.
Like and subscribe. Join my Patreon. You know the drill.
Oh yeah. Um, and also, because we just did a silly bit of a joke, don't be afraid to get silly, right? A lot of times people get in their own heads and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to embarrass myself." Okay, one time heavy storm, one time heavy storm, one
Come
time
at
heavy
me.
storm. Uh, I wish I had the heavy there. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? I think what I'll do, a little bit of this.
A little bit of Monica in my life. Okay. That is a witch.
I figured it might be a witch, unfortunately. Uh,
It's defense. So
But yeah, people will generally, people like silliness, right? People like people who don't necessarily take themselves too seriously and just seem like they're having fun, right? So if you're worried about, oh, this is going to be too silly, people won't like me if I'm this silly, just go for it. Even if a joke didn't land with someone, most of the time it won't make or break a video, unless, obviously there are exceptions where if you tell, a rancid joke, don't do that. Like, don't, it's, but if you're just having like a joke that's fun and like, it's just all in good fun, then I think that's fine, right? And you should go for that.
Hachi Machi.
This
I
pumpkin,
did
this
not think. I
pumpkin's gonna.
honestly did not think it was gonna be pump. I thought it was gonna be like literally anything else.
Was I not able? Oh, my auto draws off for some reason. There we go. I just got to go for it. I was like, do I sit on this fissure, let the pumpkin ride? But it's time. Pumpkin beats.
It's time for. I like we're both playing a one tribute 1800 monster.
Yeah, it's just which one's better.
That's
Probably
that's
yours.
that's the common theme. Yeah, like I mean, I get so many ideas for YouTube channels. Honestly, I have a bunch of YouTube channels that have 0 videos on it because I'm thinking, what if maybe one day, right?
Yeah,
Like the
you
only
got to
one
get
I've
that name in there.
yeah, like the ones I made a video for is the Pokemon one, but I at least have like I think of at least 2 other channels that I have no videos for. That I'm like maybe like I could see myself potentially if I ever decided to hang up the old Yu-Gi-Oh boots.
Oh,
Like
my pumpkin.
the Pokemon is the one I jumped into mainly because like I've been getting into the game recently. I have history with the series about as if not longer than Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's essentially the same style of content. So I just kind of transition one thing into another, minus a few assets here and there.
Yeah, I've come up with channel ideas that would probably get a lot more views than my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. But I'm in it for the Yu-Gi-Oh channel because I'm passionate about this,
Oh
and
my
it's what I
god.
want to do. And for me, the important thing is not necessarily being successful at YouTube. It's just being successful at this Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Like I like this game. I it's a passion of mine, and I truly like exploring these formats and growing these formats, and so that's what I want to do. And that's in my opinion how it should be. Don't just do things because you think they'll get views. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you can do that. I'm not saying you can't, but like I don't think that's necessarily the path to happiness. And I think, oh no, not my Castle of Dark Illusions. I need that.
Yes, but I need
No.
brother.
Oh,
Hey, brother's out.
they're here.
How different was your idea for another channel? Was it also like a card game, or was it like
No, it's very different. It's like going through so you can tell that I like things like from zero. It would be like going through like very old comic books and just like reading through like I don't know all of Marvel or all of DC or
mhm.
something from zero, and just like seeing my thoughts evolve over time. Um,
I mean, that could be
but I
interesting.
I decide what I prefer is this Yu-Gi-Oh channel, and
Yeah, a
I
lot of
like
it's just
that
a
a little
matter
bit.
of like time and uh, why do you do this to me?
Take that.
Yeah, like a lot of it's like time. Like if I had all the time in the world, I probably would be making like a bunch of other channels just so I can get all this creative outlets. But it is also probably healthier to focus on one channel and not have to like maybe a second channel. You know, like a lot of people have like a secondary channel for whatever. I technically have three, technically four, because I got like my own channel, my Janjo Plus, which is just for Patreon videos, which I don't even upload on there anymore because you can upload directly to Patreon now. Janjo region, and technically I have a Metal Raiders channel that is technically linked on my YouTube channel, but doesn't have a single video up.
Hmm. Everyone go subscribe to the Metal Raiders channel if you're not already.
Yeah, Heavy Metal
Uh,
Raiders is on the bottom of my on my channel page. The idea is to have like a critter format library, like a video library.
hmm.
Yeah, we'll get around to it when I get around to it.
Well, this could go in the video library. You know, it's a critter game.
I mean, I would like to talk about the battle card deck. I mean, it's like literally any deck, like as much as I could possibly think of.
Yeah. Although I will say, on the topic of second channels, I would personally recommend. Why are you doing this? I think I do have to travel that because I think I know where this is going. I think that you've got a reborn to bring back a swamp, and then you'll plow over my entire field. So I think I do just have to trap hole that. Oh, or Fisher. Yeah, Fisher. I should have thought of Fisher. Should have thought of that being the thing. But
Honestly,
uh,
I probably shouldn't have tributed anyway, but whatever.
I I think it was fine. I think if you got the Fisher, you got to go for it eventually, right? So, um, but yeah, on the toxic channels, I will say, like, if you're just starting out, with your first channel and you're enjoying it, don't then immediately make a second channel. In general, uh, because it's just generally better to focus on one thing, as we've mentioned. Um, and like, I do think that like in general, it's better to have like a certain level of success with your first channel before you dive into a second one, because otherwise, like, you're just splitting your attention between two things, and neither of them are necessarily like doing super well, and that can be kind of rough for your mental health depending on how you take it. I'm not saying that it can't be good for your mental health, like because some people engage with it different ways, and you could definitely sort of be the type of person where that doesn't really affect you that much, and you're perfectly fine with that going on. But I think different people are very different about that.
Yeah,
So
I would say
um,
like do it out of necessity, not just because like you think like, oh, everyone does it, or like, oh, I could put this on this other channel. Like you really should focus on like one thing at a time. And if the opportunity
yeah,
like arises, we're like, okay, I see like like a legitimately good reason. Like I like for the Patreon, I want to do that just so I had like one place where people could like find like the videos separately from like my main channel. Um, I mean, in retrospect, I probably could have just had one on my main channel, honestly. Um, but that was just like my thought at the time. You know,
yeah,
live and learn.
and I mean, I think that like yeah, and again, like we're not saying like never do this or always do this and stuff. It does depend on the person. So if you really do want to make that second channel, go for it. But I think in general, it's usually a little bit better to wait on that. But you know, different strokes for different folks. Yeah, I figured that was coming, but I had to go for it.
I'm struggling here. I'm
Yeah,
struggling.
see, that's why I had to go for it. Only I'd added Cannon Soldier to my deck.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was debating on it. I have it inside, but I was like,
I'm not running him.
yeah, ooh, that's pretty good. Yep, that's fine.
So that much I
Yeah,
can tell you.
yeah. I will also say, as well, you know, don't feel like you cannot do, um, this sort of thing, like that you're not qualified for it or stuff like that. Janjo mentioned that they've got a background in like like television and stuff like that and stuff. And you may be like, oh, in order to make videos, I need a background like video production in some way. I have no background in video production. I just looked up some how-to guides on things. That's part of why my videos are very much not edited because I was like, I personally don't have that skill set right now. But also, it's something that you can definitely get that skill set in. Ah, rip.
I should have
Yeah.
trapped roll. That change of heart. I'm like,
Now, I
I
think it
thought
was
I thought
fine
you
to
were just
not
gonna
trap roll
summon and
Sandy there.
crash. I'm like, oh, okay, that's perfectly fine by me.
I will defend the play that you made because I think next turn if I get change of heart anyways, I'm just bringing out whatever I brought out with
Uh,
Sangan and taking control of whatever monster you have and attacking in, right? So either way, you lose the change of heart over time there.
I at
Um,
least got the battle guards both out twice in the span
exactly.
of a 3 game match.
And I got Pumpkin out. I never synergized Pumpkin with Castle, but had it out, which is what I wanted. Um,
Can I just
but
say that like lava battle guard stats are the absolute worst? Like it can't be searched by
yeah,
anything because it has slightly too much attack, which isn't even high.
Lava Battle Guard stats are honestly why I did not cover the deck when I covered Critter format because I was like, it's already an uphill battle because it's based around 2 tribute monsters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you can't search out one of them at all is just so bad. Like you can never consistently get the combo online, right? And technically, to be fair, you can't search out Pumpkin either. But you could like wall up with like a Castle of Dark Illusions for a bit. You can search Shadow Ghoul, which is sort of
Mm-hmm.
like the main win con for the deck. Um, and so like that's fine. And you'll generally have soul exchanges online. So even if you're not doing the Pumpkin combo, you're getting set up. And Pumpkin on its own, let's say you don't draw Castle, it's 2,000 defense. So like you can soul exchange set it and be relatively fine with that. But it's just like the Battle Guard deck. That's like, I mean, these cards don't really do much without each other, right? They can be an
Yeah.
1800 beater, sure, but like so's Login. 1800 defense is okay, but like you've got other 2K defenders, so
I do like the
it's
build
just very sad.
I do like the build I came up with because I remember I saw someone was like working. I think either like they posted or like they're discussing a battle guard deck on the Critterland Discord. I'm like, I bet I could make a battle guard deck.
Yeah, and I do like your build. I think it worked out. I mean, very well in game one. Like game one was not even close, and game two was very very close. So I think that like this deck was pretty good. Now to be fair, I'm playing Pumpkin, so
Yeah,
like neither of us are playing like the most meta competitive decks in the world, but it's a fun rogue option, right? Like to play around with. I think that this is definitely a good
I'll have
build of it.
to send you the build. All right.
Yeah.
Hmm. How how bad do I want the next deck to be?
We could make it a bit quicker.
Hmm.
I'm gonna play a rogue deck, but it's not like the worst deck in the world. So no,
I'll
it's
try
also a
so
bit speedy.
I'll try something a little on the fun side.
Okay, let's do it.
But yeah, like YouTube is just like an ever evolving thing. Like again, like I currently work and co-own um a YouTube channel, that we have employees and people in like meetings and like there's been so much discourse this past week on just thumbnails alone. It has been insane.
yeah, and if you do want to dive into that and like fully embrace that side of things, like maybe not with a team behind you, but like get really deep into the thumbnail analytics and stuff like that, because that's the sort of thing that you enjoy to optimize. Like definitely do that, and that will probably help out your growth of the channel and things like that. Um, but I think in general, like, oh, that's a perfect draw. Uh, you'll
Oh
see why
no.
here.
Oh no.
Uh, just adding the one.
Oh,
You can
hard
probably
turn to
guess what the
2.
draw was. Uh, but I think in general, yeah, let's just go for this. Go for the movement. I think in general, you don't need to do that to be successful, and
Okay.
so don't feel like you have to do it. Is my whole thing.
Yeah, like I enjoy like like it would be so nice if I got like the ability to fund editors and whatnot. But I also like, I also like I just enjoy video editing. It's what I do for
Yeah,
work and it's my hobby. I enjoy making thumbnails, going to Photoshop, messing around with stuff, like all that stuff. So it's just like it all stems from like what you like doing, pretty much.
yeah,
Like there's certain aspects you may not like about it. Yeah, you can maybe ask a friend to help you out. Like, I know the Pokemon channel Ruby Retro, it's like 3 people, like 3 friends or whatever that works on that.
And also, that's a big thing too. Um, feel free to reach out to, well, maybe not every YouTuber. Like, I'm not sure if the big ones will respond, but I know that like in general, people are very willing to collab, especially if you're like doing the same sort of thing. I mean, like me and Janjo are collabing, right? And because we're both in the retro scene, we
Hmm.
like each other's stuff, so we're collabing. I've collabed with like goatformat.com, JDZ, who's great with that sort of thing as well. And just I think reaching out to collaborate with people, there's no downside to it, right? The worst thing is they say no, right? Um, but the upside is you get a friend in this doing the same sort of thing that you're doing, and you can make some great videos together, and
Yeah,
that can be really fun.
like a big thing I've always been, advocating for is like supporting all like the smaller channels. So like, Lee, I don't know if you saw in chat, but he talked about it earlier. That was he saw my comment in the casual duelist videos. Like I'll just comment and just videos randomly, and like chat with people. I don't watch any of the bigger stuff out of like my own mental self preservation, but also just like I gain nothing just being in like such a saturated forum. Um, so like stuff like that, it's like, you want to surround your people that you want to talk with and collab with and do stuff. I am sorry to say for you, but I don't think that Crystal Beast video is going to happen now. I don't know if you saw
Oh,
Neshi stopped making YouTube videos, stepped away. It's always sad when you see like someone who's like, all right, I'm done, because like people have doing this out with Grace, Neshi, Void delete like all his videos. And yeah, it's unfortunate when stuff like that happens. Um,
yeah,
the nature of
but
the beast. I would say if you stop your channel, please don't delete all your videos.
yeah, and that may be a selfish request from us, but like it is. I think it's generally good to sort of see that thing, unless like people are really like, let's say you make a video and like for some reason it's getting like hate brigaded. Definitely feel free to take that down and
Oh,
like,
sure,
or
sure.
or even if like you just feel like having it out there and having people see it is just like bad for your mental health. Feel free to take it down, right? Like
Hmm.
you know there are more important things than people being able to watch what you made. But I do think that there is something to like leaving out there for people to enjoy because in general, people do enjoy. Let's go fusion. I love this deck. Um, but that's actually really bad for
I
me
summon the
overall.
Forbidden Memories Thunder Dragon.
Yeah, that's rough for me. Um, but yeah, I do think like in general, um, it's good to leave the stuff up because you never know what people are gonna enjoy it. But also, this gets into a key thing. If you are doing YouTube and you feel like you have to keep doing it, but it is not helping your mental health, you're just like not enjoying what you're doing anymore, or things like that, it is perfectly fine to step away. Um,
Yeah, your mental
no
health comes
pressure.
first. Yeah, like don't feel bad if you have to like step away for a while. And I think YouTube has like there's like a certain time stretch where like it's fine for you to like not make anything or do anything without like getting screwing you out of the like algorithm and stuff like that. But like, look, if you need time, like please take that time.
Yeah. And generally, your audience will be accepting of it too, because everyone's gone through their own troubles, right? Like everyone knows. Well, maybe not everyone. Maybe there's some person out there who has never gone through that sort of thing, and he's just like, "What are you doing? This is like I've never had a bad thing happen to me in my life, and so I feel entitled to more content." But most of the time, people are very accepting of that. So
And
never feel pressure
yeah, and
to
there's even ways
keep
to like
making if you don't
trick
want to.
around content too. Like if you want to like freaking make make a video and then let's say, hey, let's make a quick short out of this video. Take a tiny clip, make a short. There you go, quick extra video right there. Like there are sort of
Yeah,
cheat codes you can take to certain things. Like if you have a Premiere project, and you have like the same assets, you can just throw those in. Like that's basically what I do. I mean, all my things are essentially the same kind of thing. Just I have like a group of files, I throw them in. I have like a set organizations I do. Like my videos are basically just slideshows. Like and anyone can make the content I make.
well, you say that, but I don't know. Well, no, if you want to make that sort of thing, you can make it. But for me personally, it's definitely a bit tricky to make, and that's also something like, if you are making a type of video, um, and you are like, this is just not fitting for me anymore. I just can't do this anymore. Um, then you do not need to keep making it, right?
Hmm.
And you can try experimenting with a different type of video too. Um, so while don't feel like you can't make that sort of content because I was mainly joking where I said I could not make it. I'm sure if I looked up some courses on how to do this stuff or played around in the editor and stuff, maybe eventually I could make videos like that. It just takes time and effort to actually apply yourself to it. But if you don't want to do that, feel free to do a different sort of style of stuff. So yeah. Um,
I'm gonna trap all the
but
Muka.
no, my Muka.
I don't want to mess around with Muka's too good. Muka's like one of those cards that's like once people realize that it's good, it's like, oh, it's not just good, it's actually really good.
I love where we're in the Muka meta of Critter, or like Muka Turbo is the best deck right now, and that will probably change as people adjust to it. We saw in the last tournament that people brought like more hand control decks, like playing Robin Goblin and stuff like that, which can hurt Muka quite a bit. But like, I'm just here for the ride. I love it. I love seeing it pop off because I just think Muka is such a cool card, and also it's very emblematic of like why Critter is popular because you're able to do these interesting strategies um, using sort of underappreciated cards at the time that then get a lot worse in later formats. So um, that's why I like it.
It's a cool little time capsule
Yeah.
where it's like there is
Waha.
a good chunk of decks that are like pretty strong, but like they're never eclipsing each other, which I like.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the sort of best way to have a healthy format with that sort of thing. So I'm waiting for Critter to pop off. Maybe we need the Metal Raiders channel for it to pop off. Maybe that's what we'll do it.
Maybe
Um,
heavy metal
but
raiders.
Yeah, and this is actually something that I say to a lot of people, because a lot of people out there, when I move from one format to another, they're like, "Oh, why don't you make videos on this format, right? Like, why don't you do this? Like, because like I really like this format, and you're like the only person I've seen making videos on it and stuff." And I always say, like, if you feel passionate about it, feel free to make your own videos on it. I know that sounds like a cop out, like oh, do it yourself, but what I mean by that is like the goal of my channel is to eventually go through like every format in the game's history, and that does take some time, right? And so I generally have to focus on just keep moving forward and keep moving forward, and that's what I do. Um, but like if people are passionate about it, like the best way to get more interest in a format is to have something like E3 Yu-Gi-Oh, right, where they were really passionate about Edison and they just made Edison content over and over and over again, and people saw those videos, they liked the format, they the format grew more and more and more, and then it got spotlighted by some big creators and stuff, and I think that's a good recipe for making a format more popular, and also um, just having fun making a YouTube channel, right? Like doing it for a format you're passionate about. So,
Yeah,
oh,
like
also this gets flipped up. Yeah.
oh, sure.
I don't think that matters much. Yeah, I figured it wasn't a bug. Um,
Yeah, like you said, like E3 Yu-Gi-Oh, Goat format. Was it TCG Rewind does Tengu Plant stuff?
yep, Tengu
You know,
Plant.
like
Yeah,
it's if you want to find like one specific thing to focus on, there's nothing wrong with that. Like there are YouTube channels that I watch that all they do is just primarily deck profiles, and like people like that, right? Like if there's a use for it, I say go for it. Also, what's up, Cynical Spaniel? Hello, welcome. The freaking swords. I hate this card with a passion. Uh,
gotta love swords.
it's like there's definitely times like I want to do so much like on my YouTube channel, but I have to like I know myself. I'm like I gotta dial back. Like I can't keep like all these ideas. Like it's just better if I just didn't.
Yeah, and that can be a bit hard to manage as well. Where it's just like, uh, yeah, especially we live in a time where like there's so many different things you can do. That oh okay, no heavy engrave. I'm okay with this now. uh, but like there's so many different things you can do. But like you got to really focus on what you got to do or what you should do. Or should do is a bit tough to determine, but like in general, just like do what you want to do, right? And you got to make
Hmm.
sure that you have some focus to it, But as long as you've got some focus to what you want to do, and you've got something in mind that like is maybe a game plan, maybe not, maybe it's just Oh, I did forget about pod. I guess pod is bad for you
Yeah,
now,
like
but yeah,
you know,
I'm not
like I wanted to
afraid of
do
pod.
shorts. I want to do like a gaming stream. Like there's all these like series. I'm like I can't. I just like I literally do not have like the capabilities at this point in
Yeah,
time unless I had took away from something out. Like it's equivalent exchange, right? Like you have to
yeah.
sacrifice something for something else. Spaniel here says I'm pondering making retro content. My niche would be 1103 or March 2011 OCG format. Yeah, and if you want to do that, go for it. I can't say I've ever seen that on YouTube. You know,
Yeah, and don't be discouraged if you start out and no one is watching, because that's how everyone starts, right? Where you start out, no one's watching, and don't even be discouraged if you start out and like months go by and no one's watching too. There are some things you can do, like advertisements is really good. So like, if you're in a Discord server, like, for instance, I know there's an OCG archive Discord server where,
mm-hmm.
people talk about old retro formats for the OCG. If you're in that Discord server, you can post some of your videos there. Maybe people will enjoy it and things like that. I did that with like a format library, and then like all the specific format Discords and stuff that were around. Um, but like it really is just trying until you find something that works, and not really sweating the numbers too much.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about OCG stuff, I mean, I'm also in that OCG archives. I do a lot of my digging as well. Both the people on there, as well as just people like I'm friends with, like in the shout outs to Blah, History Yugioh, true trooper. um, and like there's been a lot of really cool discoveries lately from the OCG. A lot of it regarding to like early card creation, which I've been digging.
Mm.
I have to search out for something.
Yeah. What can you have to fight the might of what I've arrayed here? Nothing. That's what.
Nothing.
Too powerful.
It's terrible. Yeah, like there's not really like my stuff works so well because there isn't really any OCG content like for like the
Yeah.
English audience out there. Uh, hmm,
That sounded like a
hmm,
good draw.
hmm,
That sounded like a
hmm.
draw you wanted.
Draws, aren't they all?
Yeah. But yeah, I think definitely going for that. And also like too, if you want to make your own community after a certain period of time, like let's say you have enough people watching your stuff who seems like they'd be interested in, being in a Discord just for you, or being in a certain thing just for, ooh, yeah, that's pretty good. I don't necessarily like that. Yeah. Again, solos. But definitely feel free to make that as well. And I mean that can be pretty popular, or it can grow a community together, right? Even if it's not the biggest community, like that's what I did with. Oh wow, you're really going all in on that macro there.
Let's go.
What will you do with the heavy?
You knew it.
No, but what will you do with heavy number two?
Oh shit.
Oh
I'm like I gotta
damn,
set these both. Something's gonna happen.
yeah. Well, that's a bit unfortunate for me. Whoop,
Yeah,
whoop.
like Span, like if you have any OCG questions, I may be able to answer some. Who's to say?
Yeah,
Also got like my Discord.
yeah, and
Um,
Discord I think is honestly the best place to build community with these sorts of things. Like, I mean, there are retro communities on like Facebook and stuff like that too. Um, okay, what do I even? Oh wait, I know what I should search. Do I search that? Yeah, I probably search this.
oh no.
Yeah, the dangers of this at the start step of battle phase. I'm gonna do this.
Okay.
Yeah, that is important to specify because if you had negation there, um, you would have been able to stop that from going on with that attack.
Yeah, like if you have passion for like that, there's no better reason to make content than for something you have passion for, whether it's for literally any hobby.
Yeah, I am gonna prio here,
Oh,
but I was
okay.
just asking if you got a
Okay.
negation
Yeah.
for it. But yeah, because if he had negation, I wouldn't be able to use priority on the
Sure,
effect. But
sure.
uh,
That's fine. Oh,
yeah,
this
let's
this
just
just killed. Oh, if you have another, okay. Like if you have
no.
another cannon soldier.
I wish I was debating like trying to maneuver some other way with this, but I figured it was probably better just to go for this play just to get that 500 in. If I draw reborn, I have an instant win con. So um,
Yeah, like the
and this
last
does
thing like you want Spaniel is to like care about like views or anything like that because you're just gonna go insane. Because the
yeah
thing with views, and like while like it matters for me like some regards, I used to like see what people liked because I feel like I'm at that point in my channel where I can set sorts of goals for like certain videos. Like that's just not something you can ultimately control. Is the views like you can only focus on what you can control, and views is not one of those things.
yeah. And like just know again, as Janjo mentioned earlier, we're in a niche of a niche, right? So this is not the place where you're gonna get like thousands and thousands of views on
I
things.
gotta go for it.
Uh, I gotta go for this too.
If only I could.
You can't do that.
If only I could.
Yeah. Uh, I did have this prepared for if you had the solemn, but
Ooh, baby.
uh, yeah.
Can't destroy that guy. That's unfortunate.
Well, you could Raigeki it.
Let's not and say we did.
Yeah. Um, you are in a pretty good spot. Let's go.
No.
I I manifested it
No.
into
Don't
being.
don't don't take. Oh, for a second I'm like you're gonna take my twin-headed thunder dragon.
Nah, I got to do the cannon soldier.
Hiya.
And I will show you. I didn't get any of the pieces, but yeah. Uh, Harpy ladies, unfortunately, did not get to the harpies or the egotists or anything like that. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean again, like Span, like take it from me. Like I mean, YouTube is not only my hobby, it's also my full-time job. Like not the janitor zone. There's a different aspect of it. But it is important nonetheless. And it's just like these are all things like you just learn over the years. Like things that work, things that don't work. Um,
yeah,
it's like live and learn. It's like any hobby or job. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
yeah. And also, the more you do it, uh, sorry, this is a very tricky siding thing because my harpies are really bad against things that can mount pressure above
And I
above the standard amount of
and
attack.
I definitely respect
Um,
harpies. I've put my fair share in messing around with them. Oh my, what the hell is this?
but
Okay.
yeah, it like I do feel like once you go for like a fair amount of time, you do get into a groove with it. Um, I feel like I'm in that groove a little. Oh, okay, that's pretty good. I wanted to keep that Thunder Dragon so that way I don't draw into dead later Thunder Dragon. Um,
Ooh, I drew the Thunder
uh-oh.
Dragon.
Oh,
Hey, baby, let's go.
you son of a gun! You took my
Uh,
Thunder Dragon, got your own.
yeah.
Oh, how could you?
Spano says I have to dip in a sec, but I had to ask questions, see what you guys approach to work on a video script, no script planning. It just depends what kind of content you're making. Like Ben here doesn't use a script. I prefer
Yeah,
scripts. I've tried not scripts, and I'll do it for like my Patreon stuff when I do like my extended thoughts videos. But I like the script writing. I think just makes me present my ideas and topics in a better way, but it is a lot more work. So if you want the more work, do it. But if you're doing stuff like live, like sort of like live content, like you're not going to script videos, right? It just depends on what kind of information you want to get out and how you prefer to get them out. You can try it both ways,
yeah,
and both take skill, both take learn to really get a good grasp on. Um, but it's ultimately like whatever you prefer that you think it presents better.
And I also think too, like there is a middle approach too, where like you don't necessarily have to write a full script, but you could potentially, write down some talking points that you have beforehand. That you're like, okay, I want to mention this, this, and this, and so I have them here, maybe on screen, just as I'm going through it. And then as you finish one topic, you look at the next one. You're like, okay, I need to remember to talk about this now and do that. That's also something you can do. There really are as many approaches to script writing as there are, people making scripts, right? And just content creation in general. So there is a lot of wiggle room to find your own sort of middle ground there if you want to do that.
I have the funniest hand right now.
Oh no, I don't like the sound of that.
Yeah, like I've like early on I did a lot more unscripted content because like the script was basically just for the history series. Um, and like I don't think I'm the best at it, honestly. Like you gotta sort of put on a show, and I'm such a like not bombastic. Like I can't be if I'm playing a game, but like me just like chatting about Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm just more of like on the chill end of things. So like I've kind of like deferred to do more scripted stuff. But yeah, even like talking points like can work. 'Cause, like I've done that for like the occasional stuff. I mean, sometimes for this podcast, I'll have talking points that I'll
Yeah.
write up. It just purely depends on yourself and the form of content. You have another question? Well, please feel free to ask. That's
Oh
what
yeah.
we're here for.
Yeah. And I think like, I if you learn one thing from this, learn that there's no correct way to do anything, right? Um we're always trying this is so bad. Oh my goodness. We're all unique. We all are making our own content, and what makes your content special might just be the special sauce that you bring to it and not necessarily the approaches that we have, right?
Yeah, like
So,
honestly, even if you
uh,
wanted to, you could like when you're making a video, what's your target?
I'm going to target the Login.
Uh, sure. Um, like when you're making a video, like maybe one of your first videos, you could try both ways, right? You could film it one way, unscripted, film it one way, scripted, and just pick which one you like better and go with that. Like, that's
Yeah.
the beauty of it. It's not live, right? You can do whatever you feel like and have tests essentially.
Is the declaration of attack okay? Okay.
Yes.
So on declaration. Oh,
Uh.
is that okay?
Uh. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Oh balls. I ha- I have to stop one of them.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I think you're at actually you'll be at 3,200 because you have to do that before the damage goes through. Um
Oh, sure. Oh, didn't
yeah,
mean to press that.
doesn't really matter too much. You do still get a search, so that's something. And the damage will be done before you get the search. So I'm just gonna hit that one. Um but oh, that's a pretty good one. I'll take it. But yeah, I mean it's also like don't feel like you have to have your own niche too. Like, we've talked about trying to not be a clone of a more popular channel or something like that. But if there's something you want to do and you're like, well, the market's oversaturated with this, but I think it would be fun anyways, then do it. Look at progression series, right? After Simo's progression series, tons of people made their own progression series. And some of those progression series are still going to this day. A lot of them have ended. A lot of them, didn't really get the most views. That was a Sangan, not a witch.
Wait, what did I search
But
out? Oh, Login.
Login, I think.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're dueling and talking, so that happens with that. But it's you can just do what you want to do too. Even if you think like, okay, well, it is oversaturated, and I'm not really bringing anything new to it, but it's something that I want to do, something that I find interesting, and I think it'll be fun. Then definitely go for it.
I mean,
Um,
I've been guilty of essentially trying a progression series like once or twice, but it was also like it was kind of thing. It was like it's literally just like the side thing, like just for fun. If it didn't do
yeah,
well, I'm like whatever, I would scrap it. which I think was the Wheel of Duel, which I actually kind of liked. I like it was a
Yeah, it was fun.
yeah, it was a different concept because I would only be doing it if it was some sort of different take on the concept, which was like each week you spin a wheel and pick a deck based off of that. Let's see your
Yeah.
let's see catching up on your comments here. I'm really passionate about retro Yu-Gi-Oh. Came from modern, had to learn retro from the ground up. Someone with no exposure to YGO's history, and a lot of us have. I mean, I started with
Yeah.
like I used to watch more bigger channels and I saw one of them posted like a retro style thing. I'm like, oh, what's this? Is kind of interesting, and it was went to like Facebook groups. It slowly went to like like YouTube, and then Discord became more of a thing. Your question is how to speak on a topic or deck without having a concrete idea of why X performs well. How to speak confidently on topic on hand while spewing incorrect information. Man, a lot of that just comes
Hmm.
down to your own research and confidence really about the topic. If
Yeah.
you're worried about incorrect information or not things or things just being wrong, then you just have to do more research on the on the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you just said, you probably research. Yeah, I mean that's what it ultimately boils down to. And sometimes you can like play that into your favor, like with my tiny little side project on my Pokemon channel, the Janjo region. My whole I come up straight up front. I'm like, I had these cards, but I didn't play it, so let's try and like learn about this. So you can make an angle out of it. It just depends on how you express that to people. But if you're doing something like my Yu-Gi-Oh channel where I'm like, hey, here's the thing, and sometimes new information comes out. Sometimes you get more reveals and or more of an understanding of how things work. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it just means like you're learning, and as long as people are aware of that, and you're passionate about it, people will see that.
Yeah, and I think also never underestimate the power of admitting to a mistake that you make. Like, I'm not saying that you should put intentional mistakes in there and then, so people will, you'll seem more sympathetic when you admit to them. But what I am saying is like people make mistakes. It's a natural part of life, and if you make a mistake, that's perfectly fine in my opinion. And yeah, unfortunately, uh, my one monster that I worked so hard to get. But you know, owning up to it is generally people will not really mind if you are just like, yeah, I made this mistake. Thank you for pointing out to me, and I'll try not to do it again. And people are generally like, okay, I'm okay with that. That's uh, a humble way to go about it, and you clearly feel bad about it, and it's not going to stop me from watching more of your videos, right? I think the real problem comes like um, if you do make a mistake and ooh, yeah, that's pretty good. If
Which
you do make a mistake and you're like, no, I didn't make this mistake, even after people point it out, that's where you run into some issues. But I think just being humble and accepting when you get things wrong is important. And also you can even say in a video too, like let's say you're doing a historical video and you're like, at this time this thing was around. You could also be like, I don't necessarily know what this, there's not really enough info. I did a lot of research on it, and oh yeah, that's a yep, that's fine. And I just was not able to find this. If anyone does know, let me know. But I don't really have
yep.
a good answer to this.
Yep. See you later, Spaniel. We can always come back to this. Like the VOD will still be up, so you can always watch this stuff later. I mean, yeah, like especially with historical Yu-Gi-Oh content, things are wrong or mislabeled or change all the time, right? There's been like a back and forth on morphing jar in treasure format, formats, like their pet names, even just like freaking like the unlimited editions of Yugi Kaiba, like the structure decks is like it's like the release of like the original like the first ed decks. Like there's so much stuff that's just like a big confusing mess, and that's part that's part of the mission of at least like my channel anyway. Is
Yeah.
to kind of like look at all these things and be like, all right, why is it like quite like this? Dropping the heavy,
Let's try for Woboku.
fair enough.
Oh, went through. I was worried about that seven tools back there. I was like, uh oh, do I do this? Do I not?
Well, I can still see what it is.
Uh, well, I mean, I guess I'll hit the new one.
Ooh, baby, it's my witch.
Yeah.
Wah,
Figured
wah.
it might be.
Bad news, I'm afraid. What's in
Yeah.
my graveyard?
But also, too, it's important to note. Sometimes there are, like, especially in the videos that I do, sometimes I'm looking at a game and I'm like, oh, maybe this wasn't the correct line, maybe it was, and I sort of talk about all the different lines you could do at that moment. And there will always be lines that you miss, right? And people will always point out in the comments, oh, you missed that you could have done this, this, and this. And in general, you shouldn't really let that get you down too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, to err is human, and yeah, that will happen, right?
Like, there's a
Um,
lot of times I'll make a video and like I'll see later. I'm like, oh, that was wrong or incorrect, or maybe I missed something, and it's like, well, crap. Like my recent video, for example, my the curious case of counterpart cards. Um, yeah, I make a mention of like, oh, like why did they change Oslo Hero's name to Watt Kid? And I knew in the past, but like at that time, I like it left my mind. Like I remembered like later, like after the video, but I'm like, I don't want to like go back in the video and like put a note because sometimes you'll see my videos. I'll put like a little text note. That's just like if I found something after the fact. And like I got a bunch of comments to be like, it's because of the Watt archetype. I'm like, I should have said something. Like I know this, but I should have said something.
Yeah, but sometimes you miss stuff, and that's how it goes, right? And pinning comments, that is a definitely a good way to sort of fix that mistake if you do run into that, right? Um, and yeah, unfortunately, it'll go through.
Uh,
I got a couple draws in my deck that I really want to go do. That's not necessarily one of them. But yeah, I mean, like that's the thing too. I think a lot of people think that people are a lot less forgiving than they actually are. Um, like even if people are pointing it out in the comments and stuff, and everyone's pointing that out and stuff, for me personally, like that's never really too big of a deal.
mm-hmm.
You know what? I'll go for the funny search here if this is
All
going to
right.
be potentially the end of the game. Yeah, you know what? You know what I had in my hand the whole time.
Oh man. Oh no.
That was rough there. Uh, but that's the risk that you get from playing this sort of deck. Um, but yeah, I mean, you never know what you're gonna mess up, but that shouldn't stop you from making videos because I do think that it's generally better to ask for forgiveness than to just not do something because you're too afraid of messing up.
Yeah, and like people are like, if you're honest and you're open to learning and understanding, like there's no problem with that, unless you're like a creep. that's
Yeah,
that's a whole other thing, unless you're like Boogie 2988. but
but
I
if you
die but
are
I
a creep,
digress.
if you are a creep, know that you don't have to be. There are you can always improve yourself.
They
Um,
should put that on
and
posters in the police force, like, you can be a creep but you don't have to be. Crime, it's a
exactly.
choice.
Yeah.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Uh, yeah, that is also a good thing. When you're filming a video, drugs definitely hamper your ability to record rather than help.
I have streamed
So
high once. I do not recommend it.
yeah, I will say like occasionally I've seen people like sipping a beer or something on stream. That can be okay to like loosen up the mouth. I do think like I'm not telling you to drink on stream or drink while recording and stuff. I just do know that some people have done it and they do swear by it where it's like it helps with the flow of the speaking, and I'm sure that there's some people who can do that high as well, although I generally think like what being high does to you is generally I don't know if this is gonna cause things to get weird with monetization here, so I guess I'll go off on
Nah,
I'll
it's
stop this tangent, but
I
but
think what it comes down to is like be comfortable, really.
yeah, exactly.
Like if you're
um
not like if you need to record while in your pajamas, then record in your pajamas. Do it.
no.
Go for it.
I will say, I have recorded in my pajamas before, just pajama pants. I wanted to save that
Ooh, baby.
um,
I
but
just
so yeah,
tried
you can do that.
three.
It is perfectly acceptable. Oh yeah, those Mookas were yeah, it's a bit awkward in the in the opener like that. Um, but yeah, so as Janjo said, just be comfortable. And it can take a while to get comfortable on camera. No one starts out that way. And also, if you're not comfortable being on camera, you don't necessarily have to have a face cam, right?
You didn't have a
You
face
know,
cam early on, you know?
that's right. Yeah. And the reason I did it was because people in the comment section were like, you should really have a face cam. I think it would actually, be make your videos much cooler to see your reactions to things. And I was like, okay, sure. If you want me to do a face cam, I'll try it out. And I tried it out, and I think it was an improvement for the channel. But there are people who still don't have face cams. Like E3 Yu-Gi-Oh has been doing this for a while, and it's relatively popular. They don't use face cams in their regular videos, and they're still carving out a niche for themselves and doing well. So you can really do whatever makes you comfortable, right? You don't need to do what everyone else is doing. Um, yeah. So
Yeah, and
comfort
and that's
is key.
kind of another thing too. Like speaking of like face cams, is that don't get too like in the weeds about like the gear and tech and stuff like that. Um, because like yeah, you don't need like the nicest webcam. You don't necessarily need a light. Like I have a second webcam here, but that's just like it's an old 720 webcam. I've literally never used. Um, like we mentioned mics earlier, you can get a cheap mic, you can get a cheap webcam. You don't need like a teleprompter. You don't need a green screen behind you and a set and lights and stuff like that. Like I'm literally just like I'm in my bedroom right now.
Yeah.
Like you can sometimes some of my videos you can might be able to see my bed if I'm like on like talking and just you just shoot the shit you know
Yeah.
like don't think about it too hard. Like yeah, it's fine doing like some research about it, and I do recommend doing some research, so because if you're going to spend money on it, you should spend money on something that's good quality but also within your budget. But if it's something you're not completely sure about, don't just immediately jump into it you know
Yeah. Um, I think that's key. You can do this in a variety of different ways. What are the odds that that is Magician of Faith? What are the odds?
What are the odds? What are the odds?
What are the odds? I don't know. Let's find out. Bam.
Ooh, okay.
I believe that that's just a moff set. You're getting back the card D. Your hand's awful. You need to get more stuff.
Sangan.
Oh, get a little bit punished for that. Kind of rough.
Hmm.
That means I still have to deal with them off. Damn. Is the attack declaration okay?
Mm. I gotta say no.
Oh,
I
oh.
I like Seven Tools of the Bandit.
Them tools are pretty good.
It's
I
so
will admit.
nice. What do you think about
Um,
Maneater Bug in this format? I know it's not the most popular card.
I think it's very hit or miss. The thing about Man Eater Bug is that in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's really good because your opponent can't really get any value off of Man Eater Bugs like doing their things and stuff. But here, you've got Sangans and Witches running around all over the place,
Hmm.
so Man Eater Bug can be really bad value for you. Um, I will say, like, I did side in Man Your Bugs against this deck. I mean, you saw it in game two, so it's not really like a big secret there. Because I think if you're up against a deck like Fusions where they're going for a big monster combo, right? Then it can be good.
I didn't even
But I think in
fuse last game.
yeah, I mean, you didn't need it. You managed to win without it.
Yeah,
But
that's a big boy.
let's see, it's 2100. Let's
Yeah.
go. Muka Power. Um, But another thing I like about Muka is that it really does enable a lot of rogue decks in this format. You had a seven tools, I got a seven tools.
Whoa,
Fighting fire with fire.
It- taking a page out of my book.
Oh yeah,
I don't like
it's just too
this.
good. Um, but it really does enable a lot of rogue decks as well, which is very fun. Also, I think another thing too, if you're worried about making mistakes or inaccuracies or things like that, as you go on, as long as you're like mindful about what you're saying and mindful about what you're doing, I do think that you start to become better at, you know, whatever you're trying to do, right? Like if you're doing game analysis, I do game analysis on my channel and stuff. I feel like I'm a lot better at that sort of thing than I was when I started out. And so I feel like it really does help quite a bit. And just doing it, it will get you more experience under your belt and make you better at knowing what to do there. Ooh,
Do you know what's
okay,
stronger than Muka Muka?
that is true. But I'll have it'll be 2,700 next turn. That'll help, right?
What?
Right? Uh-oh. It's a little bit scary. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Yeah, that's a bit rough.
And your Raigeki's in the grave, yeah.
Yeah, I
Nice.
wish it was not. Let's see. This thing is at 2,100 defense. Probably won't matter because you got that Black Skull Dragon there. But it could. You never know. You never know. Uh, That's not looking good for me. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, and you've got the Moth too. Oh no.
Hmm.
Oh no. It's a bit of a problem for me. No.
Gotta
All
get.
going downhill.
Yeah, you gotta go aggro with fusions. There's no other way to go about it.
Or is
I.
it going downhill?
Oh, Nikes. Activate Divine Wrath. I'm a
Ah,
big
feels
advocate
good.
of fusions, but it's what it is.
I love Fusion. I think Fusion could be a deck in the future of this format that's like a bit more respected. Let's see.
Yep.
And I'm really sorry to do this to you.
No. No. I don't think you mean to activate that. You didn't mean it.
No, I did. I'm sorry.
You're waiting.
I
You're waiting.
I actually just top deck that.
Oh my god. Gotta be
So
kidding me.
I'm just that good. Sometimes it's just you're just that good at the game where the cards come to you. Uh, I think this is karma for in game 2 when I drew no monsters whatsoever the entirety of the game,
You still
except for
beat me.
Heartbleed Sisters. No, I didn't win game 2.
Oh, I won.
Uh,
I won game
yeah, you
two
won game 2.
without
Yeah, you won
fusions.
game 2.
But I lost game
Yeah,
one with
without
fusions.
sometimes
Something's
sometimes
amiss.
that's how it goes. Yeah.
Something is deeply
Um,
amiss.
to be fair, I won game 1 without harpies, and
Fair enough.
I'm not getting the harpy stuff this game either. So that's how it happens sometimes.
I can't avoid that. Oh
Let's
no.
go.
Oh no. My other
Oh, I'm very
fave.
happy about that. Oh boy. I think it's the correct choice here. The correct choice here for me is to pick Muka Muka. I know that.
But you're gonna pick
I
Harpy
know that's the
Lady.
correct choice.
The Harpy Lady, the first
I
ed
gotta
art.
take Harpy Lady. How can I not take Harpy Lady? Uh, Unfortunately, I don't have the egotist, so it's not really mattering here as much. But um, yeah. Um, and like I think back to the content creation. Oh, that's unfortunate for you. But I mean, you still got 2 back rows, so
Deck
that's
thins.
fun there. I think there are many ways to succeed in dueling content as well. Like we're having fun here. We're just playing fun decks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't necessarily. I mean, people are all watching the stream for content creation tips as well. But also like let's say this was its own video where we are just playing harpies versus fusions and stuff as a fun game. People would not be necessarily upset about that, right? Like that would be a fine thing to have on the channel. Yeah, I figured that. Um, so like you don't necessarily have to be doing the most competitive stuff. You could be doing very competitive stuff, but it really is just like what you want to do,
Poly,
what you have
poly.
fun with, and yeah,
I was hoping for a poly. Yeah,
Ollie would
like
be pretty good here.
even like doing content, like you can just do like you could do like meta decks, you could do ladder grinds, you could focus on a single format, you could just do fun jank decks, like literally like whatever you want. Where's Cannon Soldier?
Yeah. Yep.
No.
Yeah. I was listen. I was trying. I just have not drawn egotist. Like game 2, I drew egotist and sisters, and that was pretty bad. But
Where's my
yeah,
poly?
I was really trying to get sisters online because that's the goal of the deck. But uh, it is I guess sort of like an engine, or not even an engine. It's like just you could play it in a Muka Muka Turbo core.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Muka Muka Turbo is just good enough to
Yeah.
carry.
I mean, I like
Uh,
Harpies, but yeah, it's unfortunate we didn't see the sisters. Originally,
yeah,
this
I was
deck
trying here.
was like mainly just Black Skull, but I'm like, you really can't just do Black Skull without Twin Headed.
Yeah, Thunder Dragon is so good for the deck because like it basically breaks the way the fusion mechanic works in these old formats where like the fusion mechanic is like you go really minus to bring out a big guy, but like Thunder Dragon is like it reduces the resources down to 2 cards for one
Hmm.
big guy. That's also a special summon. So if you consider it like in the context of like a 2 tribute summon like Blue Eyes or something, right? That takes you 2 resources on field to bring out. Basically, Twin and Thunder Dragon is that, right? It takes you 2 resources to bring out, but it's a special summon, so the slight decrease in attack from Blue Eyes is a bit more manageable. Um,
Yeah. So the
and
last
yeah,
game I was talking about my hand being a certain hand. It was when you activated Robin Goblin, like the double Robin Goblins. It was 2 Thunder Dragons, a Red Eyes, and a Summon Skull. No poly.
oh, you gotta keep that, yeah.
I got all of the
Oh,
materials, none of the things. Let's switch back to our thing. But yeah,
oh
that
yeah,
was really fun. If you're interested in
yeah.
the decks, I can always send you them. But they're it was fun whipping them together. I haven't played Critter in a bit. It's usually one of the formats that I'm like I kind of itch to play once in a while.
Yeah, I love Critter. I think it really is one of the formats that can have a lot of growth if it's just made more popular. Like it just needs like people really pushing for it. I think that's the way to get a lot of interest in a lot of these formats is just people pushing for it. You know, people
Mhm.
trying it out, being like, "Man, that's really fun. I'm gonna make content for it and spread to my friends and spread to their friends and stuff like that." And they will never have overnight explosion of growth, but I do think that just getting the word out there is important. And the same goes for any content that you make, right? Getting the word about your own content and just keep pushing it, even if people don't respond at first. Eventually, the momentum could build up, and you'll get more people watching your stuff, enjoying your stuff, and so that could be fun. Um,
Exactly. You just gotta do it.
yeah, as Shia LaBeouf says.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, thank you all for joining the stream. This is the end of the stream, as I literally just alluded to. But yeah, thank you all for watching the Top Deck guys. See you all next time, and have a wonderful day.